Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing today?
Good.
Good? We got a great evening for you. My name is Josh Feldman. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Woolly Mammoth Theater Company, and I'm pleased to welcome you here to Woolly. By show of hands, how many folks have been to Woolly before? Awesome. How many, this is their first time? Fantastic. We have a great world premiere production right after this that you're welcome to be my guest and our guest this evening to attend to the Kira Kurosawa Explains His Movies in Yogurt with Live and Active Cultures. It is a world premiere play where you're invited into a space with Akira Kurosawa talking about his movies and his life. So you're invited right after this talk. For the last 45 years, we have served as an essential research and development role within the American theater, creating badass theater that highlights stunning, challenging, and tremendous complexities of our world. In 2022, we won the Tony Award for the musical A Strange Loop. And you can see that upstairs in the lobby. Tonight, I am thrilled to present, in partnership with Politics and Prose, a conversation between Jeffrey Seller and Scott Simon. Jeffrey Seller is one of the masterminds behind the Tony Award-winning musicals Rent, Avenue Q, In the Heights, and Hamilton. His shows have garnered 22 Tony Awards, including 4 for Best Musical, and his Broadway productions and tours have grossed more than $4.6 billion and reached more than 43 million attendees. Jeffrey is the only producer to have mounted 2 Pulitzer Prize-winning musicals, Hamilton and Rent. He also revolutionized theater accessibility with the $20 ticket lottery for Rent, making theater affordable for so many. This passion for accessibility underscores his belief in the power for the stage, which was his ticket out of his hometown. Scott Simon is an Emmy and Peabody Award-winning writer and broadcaster. He is the host of NPR's Weekend Edition Sunday, which is Washington Post has called the most literate, witty, moving, and just plain interesting news shows on any dial. He is also a special contributor to CBS Sunday Morning. He also reported from all 50 states, 5 continents, 10 wars, from El Salvador to Sarajevo, to Afghanistan, to Iraq. His nonfiction books include Unforgettable, A Son, a Mother, and The Lessons of a Lifetime. No natural transition for that. Home and Away, Memoirs of a Fan, Jackie Robinson, and the Integration of Baseball, and Baby, We Were Meant for Each Other, about the joys of adoption. He is also the author of several novels, including Pretty Birds, Windy City, Sunnyside Plaza, and his new audiobook, Swing Time for Hitler. He has danced as Mother Ginger with Ballet Austin and thrown out the first pitch at Wrigley Field, and is a member of the Lincoln Academy of Illinois. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and I'm thrilled to welcome Jeffrey and Scott.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're on. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you tonight. Thank you all for coming.
Something just occurred to me. People have always seen you, is this the room where it happens?
Well, we're going to find out.
It's a real honor for me to meet you, friendship. And,
The switch.
Oh, so push up.
you know, I usually don't get to handle this. It's a real honor to be here at Woolly Mammoth and with our friend Jeffrey. And let me say something at the outset. Obviously, I interview a lot of authors, a lot of books, a lot of memoirs. And of course, I love all of them. And I'm very personally grateful to all of the authors for unpacking their lives for us. But I particularly enjoyed about this one because it didn't settle the scores. It didn't dish. This is one honest man's attempt to tell us the story of his life, what adds up to him being who he is, and who he is more than what he's done. Although that's in there too, and I thought it was just extraordinary.
Thank you, Scott, that's so kind.
And let's talk about theater. Teacher hung that name on it, right?
Well, there's only one score I was trying to settle, and it was my own. It was, why am I here? If I am lucky enough, well, I know I got 60 years, because I turned 60 last October. And if I get the 80 years that we hope, or the 90, or now we want 100 or 120, why was I here? And how do I make sense of it? And I don't believe in the hereafter. I believe our job is to make sense of it right now, today in our lives. And that's what the journey of this book was. It was, how can I make sense of my life without any strategy toward anybody else. I didn't know if it would get published. It was an exercise of my own. But I was lucky that my 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Phyllis Novetsky, 92 years old today, sharp as a tack, lives in Florida. She gave me time in the 5th grade to workshop my new play, Adventureland.
Which is a name you...
That I named it. I wrote that play right after I was in the Purim play. It was a very good Purim play. And at my temple, Temple Israel of Detroit, they used to take Purim, which for those of you who are not Jewish, is the story of Queen Esther from the Old Testament. Queen Esther is a fantastic queen who saves the Jews at the murderous, tyrannical hands of Haman, who is trying to, of course, extinguish the Jews. We've seen his character in history repeat itself over and over. And we do this pageant every March in our temples.
Can I sing along like, once there was a wicked man? I've been auditioning for Jeffrey's
So what we were doing different songs. So what they did is they mashed up Purim with South Pacific and HMS Pinnacle. So Queen Esther was singing about King Ahasuerus. I'm gonna wash that man right. And I suppose that they decided that
this idea goes no further. We're gonna patent, copyright this.
well, it's copyrighted by the Rogers and Hammerstein.
Yeah.
So, and then I was a sailor, and we sang from HMS Pinafore, we sail the ocean blue, and our saucy ship's a beauty. So my first play was Rogers and Hammerstein, Gilbert and Sullivan, and the Old Testament, which we know, thanks to Andrew Lloyd Webber, is very fertile territory for these books. But that was so inspiring that it made me go write a play. I called that play Adventureland. I wrote that play about my 2 best friends, Bruce and Jay and I, going up to the woodshed in the backyard, falling through the woodshed, landing not on the cement floor, but through galaxies and eons into a dangerous place called Adventureland, where we were beset by many life-threatening challenges and obstacles and adventures, only to be saved but at the end and flown home by Peter Pan. So it was Mrs. Novetsky that said, yes, you could do the play here. And I got my sister to type the script. It was 10 pages. I was very proud of my 10-page play at age 10. And I got my friends to be in it, and that's when she said, you're a theater kid.
Reading the book, you write in the early pages about what I think is absolutely a scene that's wound up with the theater of human life. And I can see a film, I can see a play opening with it. A little boy and his father sitting in a car driving around at night. His father has, forgive me, a theatrical medical addiction.
Yes.
and is serving warrants on people. That was you and your father. Could I get you to?
Yes. My father had inherited his father's business. He had inherited a family tool business, and he bankrupted. And then my father, without the knowledge of his family or his wife or my mother, same person, had a motorcycle and joined a motorcycle gang. And on a Sunday night in October, 2 weeks before I turned 5 years old, he was in a devastating motorcycle accident in which the front wheel blew out and he crashed to the ground. And he suffered a form of like mild early dementia or aphasia from it, where he lost his short-term memory. One of my aunts said it was like he died because the person who left was not the person who came back. He lost his spark, his charisma. He gained an inability to control his emotions. He gained a temper that could be scary and volcanic. And it was an old high school friend who had become a district court judge in Oak Park, Michigan, who gave him a way to make money because we were on welfare. And he said, go serve these papers. There was Marvin Frankel, who said, go serve these subpoenas, these summons. And he would start serving papers, and then he started serving them for all the lawyers in Southeast Michigan. And so he would say to me, hey, you wanna go serve some papers, son? No, I did not wanna go serve some papers. So we have to drive to these places, and you're driving to homes of people who are in trouble, people who are getting divorced, people who are being kicked out of their homes, people who are being asked to show up in court when they don't want to, people who are getting papers that they don't want to receive. But here is my father, who is this 6'3", 250-pound giant, who's showing up at their door with this summons or this subpoena, and I'm sitting in the car watching. And he would say, come and serve some papers with me, because he wanted my company. And I went to a lot of strange and scary places in Oakland County, Macomb County, and Wayne County during those years where we would go serving, or I'd go to work with Dad. I have another memory that just came up.
Yeah, please.
But it was also, and then we would also go to the lawyers' offices, because as he was gaining private lawyer clients, we would have to go to the offices to pick up the papers. And I definitely knew that there was a socioeconomic divide going on here. That we were working class, and he was working for lawyers who were college educated and affluent. But it was one of his lawyers that said to my dad, when I was 13, you should take him to the Fisher Theater and see this show, Pippin. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know what that word, like, what's Pippin? At that point, I had seen one show on tour called Shenandoah, which was you know it because it's the Shenandoah Valley, and it was a Broadway musical in 1975. John Cullum starred on Broadway.
Sorry.
And guess who did the tour? Another very, very famous Broadway star, starred in the movie A Pajama Game.
John Gavin?
Yep, John Ray.
Oh, John Ray. That's
Yeah.
what I meant. That's what I
Father of Bonnie Ray.
meant. Yeah.
Anyway, so I got to see John Ray do Shenandoah, a very traditional musical. But the next musical I saw, because one of the lawyers said, go take him to Pippin, was this show called Pippin. And although Pippin is, of course, a musical about the Middle Ages, about King Charlemagne and his son Pippin, who is a young prince who is looking for his purpose in life, it's told through the vernacular of Bob Fosse. it's told with music by Stephen Schwartz that sounds a lot more like Carly Simon or James Taylor than it does Rodgers and Hammerstein. And then it's told with this ensemble of sinewy, gorgeous dancers with like sets that are made of ropes. And it's told in a completely contemporary way. And what's it about? Young people asking, what is my purpose in life? And when I watched that musical, I went, wow, I never knew a show could be like that before. And I'll never forget the last image of the show, which is that as Pippin is working through his adventure of learning how he could be extraordinary, right? He wants to be extraordinary, some of you remember that song. The leading player offers him at the end the ultimate act, which is he's gonna go up in flames. You'll be famous, you'll make history, you'll go up in flames. Yes, you'll die, but you will have forever been recorded in history. And Pippin ultimately says, no, I don't want that. I just want to marry this beautiful woman I met and take care of her son, Theo. And the leading player says, you don't want to do it? Well, then the show's off. And he takes everything away. And he takes the chorus away. And he takes the props away. And he takes the costumes away. And then they took the set away.
Yeah.
And the last moment of the show, Pippin sits on the edge of the stage, and you're looking at the back wall of the Fisher Theater with no sets, no lights, and he went, ta-da. And I'm getting the chills right now because I didn't know theater could be like that.
What did it unlock in you when you began to, as a youngster, appear in community production? There's a wonderful sequence in the book when you describe seeing your face made up for
Yeah.
just for Oliver, I think?
No, what happened was Oliver happened the year before, so I missed Oliver, and then I wound up in this silly melodrama called Speaking of Murder, like a 9-year-old that's being set up as the murderer of the nanny. No, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. No, he's being set up as the murderer of the new wife because the nanny is in love with the husband. So she wants to knock off the new wife and then she'll get the husband and blame it on the kid. And I play the kid.
Standard sitcom stuff. Yeah.
But in any event, maybe I was looking, well, I liked making things. I liked the idea that we're making a play together. And B, I think I found this sense of belonging in the theater that I did not feel at home, that I did not feel playing baseball, and that I did not feel in so many other places. Because the other thing will add to the story of being poor and dad serving papers is I'm adopted. And I don't look like my nuclear family. And when they're watching the Detroit Lions game in the living room in January or February, like I'm taking construction paper and making trees and leaves on a Valentine's and pasting them up on my wall. I used to say, so Sesame Street starts in 1969, so I'm 5. So I was there just for a bit, because by the time you're like 6 and 7, you're too old. But it's right there, and I just remember watching this sequence. One of these things is not like the other. And I went, oh, that's me.
As you and I discussed, we are both families blessed by adoption.
Yes, and Scott wrote a beautiful book
Well, your
about
story,
adoption.
your story is in there, isn't it? But I need to say this now as a parent, I was impressed might be the wrong word, struck by how casual your parents were in explaining it to you. And our families, when we were preparing to adopt, went through all kinds of workshops and you figure out how to do this, but they just kind of let it out there one day, like it was the most natural thing in the world.
Yeah, I have this next memory of being in a car with my mom and dad, and we're driving. We're poor still, but my mother borrows her best friend Penny's Mustang, so we can go for a drive on a summer night. And we're driving up Northwestern Highway, and there's a horse stable out in West Bloomfield. And my mother just wants to go look at the horses because she loves horses so much. And the other weird backstory is that, like, during that phase when my dad was running his father's business, they did have a lot of money for like 10 seconds. And during that 10 seconds, he bought her a horse. I mean, so you can see why they were bankrupt.
Well, the best way to become a millionaire in the horse business.
Oh, no.
Start as a millionaire.
Oh, yeah, right. But anyway, he buys her a horse, so she loved horses. And so for a while, she had this horse named Cricket, but then by now, there's no horse named Cricket. And we're borrowing a Mustang. Another horse. Anyway, on the way to go see the horses, I think I must be 4, my sister's 7. She starts asking about where babies come from, and they say, well, you come from my tummy, and my sister learns right then and there that she comes from my mother's tummy, and then I say, well, so did I come from your tummy too? And my mom looks at my dad, and it's like, well, here we are. And he said, no, you came from another woman's tummy. I was like, oh, and at 4, you don't really, there's no affect, you know what I mean? There's no feeling associated with it. But I learned right then and there that I came from another woman's tummy, that I am something called adopted, new word. And I am told, you are our chosen child. And that was a very beautiful thing to say. And they treated me like that. Yeah.
And I'm also thinking of the day we're compressing a lot of history, became a very successful student. You're about to leave town, move to New York.
I like this story.
You're going
I know where he's going.
to, you feel the time has come to share something.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm moving to New York. I graduated from Michigan, and I see you graduate, May 2. And I look for a job, and I figure the only job I'm gonna be able to, I'll get a job in public relations because I know how to type press releases. I wrote articles at Michigan, and I got a job at a very small press agency in New York. And I'm getting ready to leave, and I've been in a relationship with my best friend for 2 years, and I have to tell my parents I'm gay. I haven't told we've told hardly anybody. Even though we were in this relationship for 2 years, we were barely out of my junior, senior year of college. So, gotta do it before I get on the plane, and I tell my parents, and I, you know what, and I was still a little bit chicken. And what I mean by that is I didn't yet even have the guts to say, I am gay. If you were gay, that'd be okay. Because hey, I like you anyway. No, I didn't have those guts. So I said, I need you to know I am in a relationship with my best friend Andrew, who they've known his whole life. So that's how I told them. And my mom expressed some, she did what moms do, is she said, I'm your mom, I know. We always know. And my dad said, well, as far as I'm concerned, it's no different than whether you're righty or lefty. Never went to college. Still had that aphasia. But was a smart guy. And the sheer, first of all, the lack of judgment in it is beautiful. But what I found to be even better was the absolute logic of it. It was without any judgment. It's just like, righty or lefty. There's more straight people than gay people, and there's more righties than lefties. And that was the shrug.
I looked with, got a job. I think I did.
You know, it's very sweet, Scott, because, you know, it's interesting. I've also had some folks who have read the book express a lot of anger toward my dad.
And I understand that, the two were.
My dad hits me in this book.
Yeah.
My dad bankrupts the family in this book. My dad puts us on welfare in this book, only to do the exact same thing all over again 15 years later. Like, he doesn't even do it once.
He goes bankrupt, or once by becoming a clown for 3 months.
Yeah.
This is true, I didn't make that up. Perhaps we don't have time to linger on that, but yes.
I mean, in yet another one of his fantasies, he wants to become a clown in the Shrine Circus in Detroit. So he joins the Shriners, the order of whatever they're called. Someone remember what they're called? You know, the Muslims, or they were not Muslim, first of all. They were Americans. It was founded by some American. What? Say it again? The Masons, thank you. Yes, Victoria. The Masons. So he joins the Masons, because if he joins the Masons, he can join the Shrine Clown Unit, and they do the circus every spring at the Detroit State Fairgrounds in their Coliseum. And it was a very good circus. It was like a real professional circus. And the Valendas would go do their act at that circus. And in my senior year, he winds up doing this circus. And they're doing like 55 shows over 3 weeks. That means they're doing like 3 or 4 shows a day sometimes. And he signs up for all of them. So he just stopped serving papers so he could go put on that makeup and go be a clown in the circus, because he loves making all the balloons. He loves making kids smile. He loves helping that handicapped kid feel good with the balloon of the horse or the dog or the cat. And I think all of my dad, I mean, this is like it's both a metaphor and not, because it's the metaphor of his life, which is that while he is providing this beautiful service, he is impoverishing his family.
By the way, we're going to invite your questions in about 15 minutes. Come to New York, I'm compressing a lot here. You're working, booking. One day, you hear a rock monologue. Then go who days. One line in particular pierces in here.
Oh, well, I think you're going to what a way to spend the day.
Exactly. Well, more than one line.
Well, so we'll reel that back. Good. Is Beth here?
I'm here.
Hi, Mark. So I'm going to paint a picture. It's going to take a minute. It's worth it. It's 1990. It's the fall. Here's where I am. I'm a booker for the Broadway Producers Bureau in Fred Weissler. I'm making a living. I'm paying my student loans. I'm paying my rent. I don't like being a booker anymore. I don't want to be a booker. I want to be a producer. But how am I going to be a producer? I'm never going to be a producer. I don't have any money. I don't know anybody with money. Broadway is not doing very well anyway. How am I ever going to become a producer on Broadway? But I hate this job. I've just broken up from a 6-year relationship, that relationship we talked about. And I thought we'd be in that relationship forever. And I'm scared because I feel like I'm going to be lonely for the rest of my life. Because that's what you feel like when you're 25 years old and you just broke up from a 6-year relationship. And I don't know what happens next. And my friend Beth, who works across the hall, she works for Barry, she says, I'm going to my friend's presentation tonight. And she shows me the flyer and it says Boho Days, a rock monologue by Jonathan Larson. And first of all, I've never even seen the 2 words, rock and monologue, next to each other. So I'm like, what's that? Oh, well, it's a monologue, so it's one guy who's going to be doing the whole show. It's a one-man show, but he's clearly going to be doing it in rock. And I was like, let's go. So we climb up the 3 steps to Second Stage Theater. in New York to this 99-seat theater, and there's this empty, there's a stage that's a piano, some drum kit, bass guitar, electric guitar, and then out comes this tall, lanky, curly hair fella. And he ferociously attacks the piano. And his name is Jonathan Larson. And what is he singing about? His 30th birthday. He's a writer of rock musicals that nobody wants to produce. His agent doesn't even call him back. He works at the Moon Dance Diner to make ends meet, and he, of course, hates his job. He has a girlfriend who he really, really likes. But he's asking, is this the right person for me? Or am I just staying in this relationship because it's safe? He lives in a 4th floor walk-up with a bathtub in the kitchen. And of course, finally, his best friend offers him a job being a copywriter at an ad agency. And if he gets that job and he takes that job, he'll make some money, he'll get some health insurance, he'll maybe get a better apartment. So he's wondering, should I keep writing these rock musicals that nobody wants to produce, or should I take this job? And he's doing it with the most amazing songs that are making the hair on my arm stand up. They're making me like cry and cheer, and I'm asking myself, how does this man who I have never heard of or met in my life, he's telling my story? And then of course the whole thing culminates in this beautiful song called What a Way to Spend the Day, where he describes being in West Side Story with his best friend Matthew O'Grady in the summer production in their high school, and how he wants to spend his life making musicals, like West Side Story or Fiddler. And it's an astonishing performance. And we go to the little party after, and I'm a little shy, and he's being surrounded by all his friends. So actually, I don't think I meet him that night, but I go home and I write him a letter the next day saying, I want to produce your musicals. And fast forward, like 3 or 4 weeks, I know the date because it's the day after my birthday, it's October 17th. I just turned 26. And I'm in the conference room at the Weissler office, and my boss, Susan Wiegand, comes in, and she says we have to talk, and she has an envelope in her hand. And I'm just sitting by myself at the conference room table eating some carrots. Yes, I brought in my lunch. I could not afford a lunch from like the deli. No way. And she says, you don't want to be a booker. You want to be a producer, and you don't want to work here anymore. And I don't like your attitude or whatever. So she said, so I'm letting you go. So you can go pursue your dreams. I freeze. I'm ashamed, I'm embarrassed, but my heart drops because I'm so afraid I'm not going to be able to make the rent next month or pay my guaranteed student loan payment. And at the same time that happens, I'm like, and she hands me this thing, there's 2 weeks severance. I said, so do you want me to leave on Friday? And she said, no, you can leave right now. And as she's saying that, the all-call comes in, you know, when the receptionist would call you to say, and they go, the all-call was Jeffrey Seller, Jonathan Larson on line 6. I had to say take a message because I was busy getting fired. So when I got home that day, I called Jonathan Larson. And he said hello, and I said, hi, this is Jeffrey Seller. He said, who are you? I said, I don't know, I was just fired. He said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And I said, well, if I'm to believe anything that I just saw on your show, I think that's a good thing. And that's how we met in 1990. And our friendship and working relationship culminated with Rent in 1996.
And it must be noted, you must remember that with God Bad timing, I can only refer to as extraordinary theatrical flourish. Jonathan Larson left his preferred show.
Jonathan died of an aortic aneurysm about 2.5 hours after the final dress rehearsal of Rent at New York Theatre Workshop on January 25th, 1996. Life is not fair. As Bernie Gersten, the producer at Lincoln Center, said to me, death doesn't give a fuck. When it comes, it comes. But what was, so I'm gonna try to leave aside the tragedy and the pain, which was all there, of course, but how about, when you say theatricality, Scott, one song glory, one song before I go is the second number of Rent, sung by the composer, Roger. Under what world does this man write his own life and death into his own musical? That changes Broadway forever.
Well, and you've been instrumental in that.
It's different. It's not blank.
When do you think of Brent Avenue Q in the Heights, Hamilton? Do you allow yourself to think that your work is expanded theater, musical theater, brought in themes, brought in personalities that just wasn't visible?
I'm going to answer that in two ways. We're just trying to make a good show. We're just trying to make a good musical. And by we, I mean the composer, the lyricist, the book writer, the director, the producer. You know, on so many stages of the development of Rent, which by the way, we thought would be an off-Broadway musical. We thought, we'll find a garage in the East Village, we'll set up 350 seats and it'll be a great off-Broadway show and young people will go see it. That's what Jonathan thought, that's what I thought, that's what we thought. We never once in Jonathan's life discussed Rent as a Broadway show. So we're just trying to make it good. And Jonathan, he had a vision. He had a bold vision. And his vision was, they grew up loving West Side Story. He loved Fiddler on the Roof. He loved Stephen Sondheim. And he loved Billy Joel, and he loved Elton John. And he wanted to make a musical for his generation. And what was happening on Broadway, basically from 1981, 82 to Rent, was of course the proliferation of the British musicals. And you know, if you think about it, they were the four pillars of Broadway for 15 years. Or maybe a little less. You know, Cats, Les Mis, Phantom, and Saigon. Basically, that was Broadway. There really barely were any other shows. There were years on Broadway where you couldn't even get 4 new musicals in the category of Best New Musical because there weren't 4, there were 3 or 2. One year, it was 89, Jerome Robbins' Broadway won for Best Musical. Jerome Robbins' Broadway was a review of all of Jerome Robbins' shows, from like High Button Shoes to Fiddler on the Roof. He hadn't done a new musical since 1964. And by the way, it was a beautiful show. They put like 50 people on stage and had a big orchestra. But it was not a new musical, folks. It was a review of a bunch of old musicals that were really good. And it won because its only competition was Black and Blue, a review from Paris, that was like a jazz review, and this other weird musical about a reptile called Star Mice that opened and closed in 10 minutes at the Criterion Center on Broadway.
Loved it.
The reptile, who was a friend named Gabriel Barry, was nominated for Best Supporting Actor in a Musical. But my point is, we didn't have any musicals. We just didn't have them. And Jonathan would say about the British invasion, those aren't our stories, those aren't our characters, that's not our music. And I am going to change that.
Let's invite your questions in the time that we have left, and I guess, right, ma'am, that's what, forgive me, I'm gonna repeat the question.
I was with Fanworth. It was truly a blessing. How did you want to produce Grant with Jonathan? How did you want to star in Grant?
Yeah. Red did not need me to star in it. Red had the most extraordinary young performers that came to Broadway often for the first time. When you think about Red, and you think about diversity, it just was. So you had Wilson Germain Heredia as Angel, he'd never been on Broadway. You had Adam Pascal as Roger, he had never been on Broadway. You had Daphne Rubin Vega, and she'd been in off-Broadway, never been on Broadway. Adina Menzel had never been on Broadway. Taye Diggs had never been on Broadway. Jesse Martin had never been on Broadway. So once again, what Jonathan did, and what our group did, was bring a new group of artists to Broadway that had never been part of it before. So we brought a bunch of outsiders, a new group. And one of the greatest compliments that I think the show received and that we received is that I remember after the first preview, a man saying, I just want to hang out with these people. And by the way, I don't just mean the actors, but the characters. Because you know what Red did? You know how we were talking about feeling like an outsider? One of these is not, I think, I might have felt it, yes. But I think a lot of people feel it for a lot of different reasons. Many people fall far from the tree. And what Rent did, in addition to revolutionize what a musical can do, is it gave so many young people a new family to belong to. Oh, I can make a built family of my own with my own friends. I can make my family of friends that will have gay people and straight people and lesbians and Latinos and black people and white people and people in drag. We can have it all. And we can make our own families. And it gave this enormous sense of belonging to its audience. And I'm very proud of that. Thank you for that question.
Yes, sir, gentlemen.
So, I mean, first, this is a wonderful conversation and a wonderful evening. Thank you. My question is, you were a Broadway producer, and you obviously, there's so many things that I've seen that I love that you were involved in. What does that mean to be a Broadway producer? What did you do? What did you bring into
That's a very nice way of asking what the hell is a producer. Got it. Diplomatic corps, sir? I've just been let go from the diplomatic. Thank you for your service.
He has a lot of time on his hands.
You talk about soft skills.
You know, I could say I'm a parent. That my job is to take care of artists. My job is to raise them up, to nurture them, to feed them, sometimes to actually feed them, to bring them to my house so that we can have creative meetings and I can say to the composer and the lyricist and the book writer, and of course in the case of Rent and Hamilton, as you all know, that was one person in both cases. And the director, go work this afternoon, I'm gonna make lunch. Can we provide a place for you to do your work? Can I hire the right mix of artists and know that if I put them together in the right way, that what they make will be greater than the sum of their parts? Because when they work together, they're gonna lift themselves up and bring themselves to a place that none of them could have gone to individually. My job is to bring together the artists that will make this play and to know when to compliment them, when to support them, when to cheerlead, when to nurture, and when to suggest, when to recommend, when to ask, can we do better? Or when to say it's not good enough yet. And when to say nothing. And just let them do their work. But I'm gonna go back with you just a little further. Do you know what the producer's first job is? Pick the play. There's the most important decision I'll make, which is what do I want to do? And I have to feel it in my guts. I have to say, I'm falling in love with this. I have to adopt this child and raise it up and know that I will love this child and fight for this child with every strand of my body. And picking the play is my aesthetic choice. It is a reflection of my values, of what I want to bring into the world, what I want to say to the world. So someone may pitch me something and I may say, I like this, I'd like to see it, but I don't want to do it because it's not a reflection of who I am. And I like to think everything I do is a reflection of who I am. And then one can say from a business perspective, yes, I'm the CEO. And I have to pick the play, I have to sell the play, and I have to close the play. And I have to make the difficult decision to close the play when the number of dollars I bring in every week is less than the number of dollars I need to operate my business every week. So it is a business and I must run it like one. And it is very painful when I have to show up on a Tuesday and say to that company, we're closing on Sunday. But that is one of the jobs too. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm Jeffrey, I'm Jim Brown, and when we met at an intimate Seder supper in Berlin, Germany, my wife told you that I was turning 60, and you gave us tickets to Hamilton in London, so I wish you the most amazing.
How nice to see you again, Jim.
But at the time, you were working to see if you could bring Hamilton into the German language, and I know that you pulled it off, but I'd like to ask, what was that like, having gone through that?
Well, what, did you get to see it there?
Did you do it in German?
Of course, no, we did. I was asking, did you get to see it there?
No, unfortunately not.
You would come back by
I
then.
left Berlin in the end of 2020.
Yeah, so it is common. I mean, the first territory we conquered other than the US was actually London. And we opened in London and we're still running in London and it was one of the biggest hits in the history of London. So we did in London and we did it in Australia and it was an equally big hit there. And then it took a long time because Lin had to find the exact right translators because we decided for Germany that we made a decision that if we did it in the German language, we might run longer. So.
A 6-hour play.
Yeah, it'll be like Wagner.
Yeah.
That's another story. But, so, two amazing translators, one a hip hop writer and one a playwright, worked together for like 2 years. And then we did it in Hamburg. And I have to say, it was a sensational production. And though I don't speak German, I felt as I was listening to them sing in German with a fair amount of English words like Alexander Hamilton, my shot. There are certain things you're going to hang on to. It got, the audience loved it, it got amazing reviews, and we did a year. But it was not the kind of hit there that it was in those other territories. And I could ask why, because The Disney shows, for example, have run for years in Hamburg. But I will say this about Germans and how they have responded to, how American musicals have gone over in different territories is very vast and wide. They love our musicals in Korea, they love them in Japan, and in Germany, they like our, how can I say this? They like our lesser musicals. The audience that goes to musicals wants lowest common denominator theater. It's not the Wagner crowd. It's not the Faust crowd. It's the crowd that likes Dance the Vampire, and the crowd that likes Tarzan and stuff like that. And that's fine, it's just that's their niche. So actually, I think what we're going to do there, we did a year, fine. We're gonna do an English language production in Europe, and then we'll go back and we'll play Berlin and we'll play Frankfurt and we'll play this, and we won't even try to play a year, we'll play a nice run. But we were very proud of our German language production, and ultimately there will be a Dutch production, there will be those others, but there'll be local productions. Yeah, thank you. Nice to see you. Yeah, what a pleasure.
Men,
Rent premiered when I was starting my theater studies, and a lot of my contemporaries hold it a very precious place for every last detail of the production. It ran for a really long time with the details that we all knew and loved. Can you talk a bit about what it was like being a part of reimagining and changing some scripting to then see it into the feature film version, and how that show is different or the same for you in what it was when you opened it versus seeing it move forward?
Well, if your local professional theater or community theater licenses Rent today, they will be licensing the exact text and music that we opened with on Broadway. It has not changed with any words. The movie certainly changed a lot, and a new screenwriter came in and made a new script, and a director came in and interpreted it in his own way. If you're asking me are you saying do you like the movie?
What is your approach when you have involvement?
Well, you stimulated something that I'm gonna answer. I'm not even sure if you asked it. You know what I love? Your rent is my chorus line. Because when I saw Chorus Line for the first time, and by the way, we went to see a Chorus Line a month after we saw Pippin. And once again, and I just want to point something out again about my very conflicting father, which is that we had no money, but my mom would say, we can't all forego to the theater, but you take your son, you'll get those $10 tickets, and you'll go. And every time I said, can you take me to this audition? Can you take me to this rehearsal? Will you take me to this play? You know what he said? Get in the car. And the return was I had to go get the car and do the papers. But I guess it was a trade-off. But here's what I want to say to you. So when I see a chorus line, once again, they're singing in a contemporary vernacular. And it's unlike anything you could imagine, because there's no set. They're wearing sweatpants and leotards and shorts and tank tops. And these 17 young people are standing across the stage. And out of them, and out of these songs, is pouring the most incredible emotional stories about their dreams, their lives, their insecurities. Girls who want their fathers to pay attention to them. Girls who discover their fathers having affairs with other women and leaving things in the car. Young men who realize that they're starting to be attracted to men and not women and they're gay. Other young men who can't make their heart on go down when they're 14 years old. And I'm watching this and I'm like, this is a show about real people, about us. And that's what I realized I loved. And I have such a special place in my heart for that, because you know what the next contemporary musical is after a chorus line? Rent. That's how long it takes, 20 years to get from a chorus line to Rent. But here's what also is true about making a new musical. It's a magic trick. It's pure magic when it works. And for me to work on Rent with Jonathan over 4.5, 5 years, and to watch its different iterations and go out to dinner and have to criticize him and say, I don't understand the plot. I can't follow the characters. What are you trying to do? Or to say to him, it's not good enough for this and this and this reason. And then to watch it come to life is very satisfying. But I know the magic trick. So once you know how they cut the woman in half, you can't enjoy it like the audience who doesn't know. So my experience of Rent is very different from yours. And that's okay, because I'm glad that I had mine, and I'm really glad you get yours.
I'm afraid we have to cut off questioning now because we want to leave time for everybody in this room to buy a book and get it signed or personalized by Jeffrey. By the way, it's never too early to begin your holiday shopping. Just mentioning that, Purim, correct?
All right, there's the Purim, yeah. Well, then I wouldn't even talk about Western Purim. We're cowboys for, we're good, and yeah.
I know.
Anyway, I got it all.
Nothing like theater kids for that kind of gift giving. I want to thank Jeffrey.
I want to thank one of our greatest national treasure journalists. If I could just give one more compliment. When I wake up and turn on Weekend Edition on Saturday morning in times like this, I feel like maybe we're going to be okay.
I get up Saturday morning with my wife snoozing next to me, but to know that she's there and my family. I think my wife Caroline is here. So 2 years ago, we got a little place in France. Our French little nieces and nephews were coming over for dinner.
Yes.
And our daughters were playing the soundtrack of Hamilton. The little French nieces and nephews come streaming into the apartment and they begin to go, oh, Hamilton, Hamilton. So I hope there's a
Paris is coming.
Okay.
Thank you so much. It's really.